Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labakan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. It's the 21st of December. Boy, the year has zoomed by. And as you can see in the gold price, it was a pretty exciting year. Stock chart or the chart of gold went from the bottom left in early 2025 to the top right, like it did in 2024. This time of the year, well, a lot of people are getting away for the holidays, and I'll probably even do the same. I still do a lot of content during this time of the year because it's a good chance to sort of reflect on the year that's passed. And I do my what I call the year in review show. And then at the beginning of every year, I do my Outlook 2026 show. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of shows and a lot of content in the next little while. But one of the points I wanted to make today is um, I don't think that the gold stocks, the silver stocks, the copper stocks are really even pricing in, or even, I would say they're trading more like we're trading at half the price of where the metals are trading at. So there's a lot of catching up to do. And when they do catch up, the price will be higher because I think we're going to have another great year for gold, silver, and copper in 2026. And then they'll have even more catching up to do. But one of the points that what I've been thinking about in the last few days is the price of gold quarter over quarter. So if you look at January, February, and March here, gold averaged, let's say, about probably 28 and change, maybe 29. Then in the second quarter, April, May, and June, probably averaged about 33, 33.40-ish, sort of. And then you've got July, August, and September. Now, in September, it had a very good month, okay? It broke out quite significantly. So, averaging those out, we're probably looking at about an average of 3,500-ish. All right. And then look at October, November, and December. We're going to average somewhere over $4,000 per ounce. That is a dramatic increase quarter over quarter over quarter for the best quarter ever. And yet, when I show you some of the big miners that I follow, you'll see that they aren't really pricing in what is going to be a fantastic fourth quarter of 2025. And so, and this is sort of indicative of all the way down the food chain, the majors, the mid tiers, the junior miners, the developers, and the explorers are all being priced like gold, silver, copper, are trading at significantly less than the price that they're currently at. And as I said earlier, I think that that's going to mean a lot of catching up to do in 2026. So I'm expecting that the real star of the show in 2026 is going to be the gold, silver, and copper mining stocks up and down the food chain, from the juniors, from the explorers, all the way up to the majors. And, I follow a lot of companies. I got a quite a significant radar screen, but out of that radar screen, I can only find a select few in each sort of category. Even in the explorers, like I do follow about 18 explorers as active picks. But even those, like some of them are silver, some of them are gold, some of them are copper, some of them are silver gold. But even in those, I might only have about four explorers for each of the metals. When it gets up to the majors, I only have four of those three or four mid tiers, a few, about 4 or 5 junior gold miners, developers. I've got about a handful of those, less than 10 of those. And so even though the supply chain needs a lot more exploration, development, there just is not a huge menu for investors to choose from. And I think that 2026, we're starting to see the generalists, and I really believe that that started over the summertime. Because when gold was going kind of sideways in the summertime this year, I saw very bullish action in the explorers and developers. And that tells me that the generalists are starting to get involved. And it's institutional as well, because at the same time, we were starting to see a lot of big financings get done, and that's continued right to just before. It wouldn't even shock me if there was some big financings happening just before Christmas. And so, taking all those things into consideration, I think that 2026 is going to be an outstanding year for the gold, silver, and copper miners. Now, some of the things that are going to affect, oh, sorry, before I get onto that, we're seeing a similar thing in the silver. Uh, Silver is going to have the best quarter ever by far in 2025. So I would say that the it's going to be an average of well over $50 an ounce. And the majors have not seen that price for a very long time. I don't know if it's ever averaged for a whole quarter over $55. Well, no, it hasn't averaged over $55 for a quarter ever. So I think we're going to have a great situation for silver and copper too. Like, you take out this spike here that happened for a very short period of time when Trump was talking about tariffs on copper, and then he said, no, there's not going to be tariffs. So there was front running buying of copper, and then it came off when he said no. But the monthly chart actually gives you a better representation of what's actually been happening over the last few years. And if you see this positive action here, and now a substantial breakout above $5 a pound, I think we've got a very good situation developing for copper. And copper is going to go into a supply deficit in 2026 that is estimated from anywhere from about 500 million tons or 500,000 tons to a million tons. And that's going to be very bullish for the price of copper. So I see a lot of reasons to be bullish on gold, silver, and copper, but I'm banging the drum bullish on the precious and base metal stocks. Okay, so now some of the things that I think are going to be very bullish for gold, silver, is that and copper for that matter, is that the Federal Reserve has started a rate cutting cycle, and I believe that it will be back on a path towards the free money era in 2026. They've already started the opening act for QE on the 12th of December when they started to crank up their balance sheet. And I think it's ultimately going to head towards a new record high. The high all time was 9 trillion. They were supposed to try to normalize the balance sheet, and that only got them down to somewhat above 6 trillion. Okay. So we're not really at a healthy situation with the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve being at 6.5 trillion. And likely that is going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 trillion as we go forward. You know, another important thing to pay attention to is on the Federal Reserve side of things is that Trump's appointee to replace Powell Powell only has three more meetings, and then it'll be a new guy, and that new guy is going to be a very accommodative on the interest rates. Trump talks about 1% or less interest rate, and I think whoever he appoints is going to get the nod because they're going to slash interest rates, and that's going to send uh, the inflation through the roof. The Fed is failing at both sides of their dual mandate. Inflation is well above their target rate of 2%. It's more around 3%, even using the Fugazi numbers that the government puts out on inflation. I mean, every consumer knows that inflation is more than 3%. And then they're also failing, and I believe they're going to ramp that up. The inflation, the actions of the Fed are going to ramp up the inflation even more. And they're also failing on in the jobs market, which is extremely challenged right now. And ultimately, with their actions, as they fail at both parts of the mandate, is they're allowing the stagflation genie out of the bottle. And the last time stagflation was significant in the United States was during the 1970s, which was extremely bullish for the price of gold and silver. And so I think we're having a repeat of that kind of action. And I've been sort of making the last couple of shows about a wake-up call for the gold stocks, the silver stocks, and the copper stocks. As I talked about earlier, gold, silver, and copper are headed much higher, yet the stocks are trading like metals are half their current price. This is giving investors tremendous um, uh, value propositions, and I'm going to talk about some of those. And when you look at the value propositions, as I said earlier, I think that they're only pricing in gold, silver, and copper as if they were half their current price. So there's a lot of catching up to do. And if the generalist investors get in, like I think they already are starting to dip their toe in, and they start to put more than just their toe in, there's a small menu to choose from of high quality in all the various different categories, and they're uh, very they're like coiled springs on their valuation. So I'm really bullish on gold stocks, silver stocks, and copper stocks in 2026. And so now I'm going to get into my in the news segment of the show. We've got some very good news on some of the picks, and one of those is Foran Mining. Foran had a news release out that their McIlvenna Bay development enters an advanced stage in November 2025. Overall construction reached 79%, approaching a major inflection point. The project remains on schedule and on budget. As they say, their report on construction activities at their 100% owned McIlvenna Bay project in Saskatchewan has now reached 79%. They are planning to go into full commercial production by mid 2026. They should start pouring copper in February. They talk about key achievements. I'll leave that for you to go and check out on their news release. They got a lot of really good commentary here on the underground development, how much that is advanced. They've got an ore stockpile, so that's really good in the early days. You want to have a good stockpile, so you got lots of material to pump into the mill, so that you don't have to worry about any growing pains, if you will, at the early stages, and that helps that quite significantly. Now, Dan Myerson, who's the executive chairman and CEO of Foran, he commented, and I quote, construction at McIlvenna Bay reached approximately 79% by the end of November 2025, reflecting continued disciplined execution as the project advances towards commissioning and first production. Pre-commissioning activities are well underway and progress to date demonstrates the operational readiness of our team and infrastructure. Development momentum continues to build as planned on time and on budget, positioning 2026 as an important transition year for Foran as the company moves into production while advancing phase two planning and continued exploration focused on unlocking district scale potential. I would like to thank our integrated project management team, employees, and contractors for their relentless focus and commitment as we work towards delivering Canada's next generational copper, zinc, gold, and silver producer. End quote. So this is a VMS system. They are almost always found in clusters. So in addition to what they're planning and phase two, they're going to do a lot of exploration to look for more. And it's going to be a very exciting year for the company. And this is one of the companies that I always like to have on my list of picks because they're at that sweet spot just before they go out of development and into production and then can go up the right side of the Lassonde curve. I picked them when they were got down here because I noticed that they were getting oversold and they were having some growing pains in the early construction. They got that all ironed out. And since then, the stock has moved up quite dramatically. They broke out not long after I picked them above their 50-day moving average, then their 200-day moving average. Then they had a golden cross here, and it's been onwards and upwards ever since then. Why I like to have companies like this in my pick list is because I have done very well picking companies before they go up the right side of the Lassonde curve. Companies such as Mag Silver, Silvercrest in recent memory, Pretium in the last handful of years, Osisco in past years, and others of that ilk that have done very well. So I always like to have some of those, and this is my one for copper. I really like their potential to go up the right side of the Lassonde curve because Pierre Lassonde himself is a significant shareholder of the company, as is Agnico Eagle. And I always keep pointing this out because this project, that this McIlvenna Bay project, is much like one of the key assets that was a company builder for Agnico Eagle. And the fact that Agnico Eagle has taken a very significant ownership shareholding in Forad is very bullish for me. And that kind of helps you to know that you've got people like Pierre Lassonde and companies like Agnico Eagle have done their homework on the project and they like what they see as I do as well. So Foran is a great one for you to look at if you want a company that can go up the right side of the Lassonde curve and is at the very earliest days of doing exactly that. Okay, another company that I want to talk about is Pacifica Silver Corp. Now, they have not been a pick for very long, just a few months. In a short period of time, they've done very well. And they had an announcement out this 6 days ago, so on Monday, and they announced that Pacifica Silver drilled 6.35 meters of 2.94 grams per ton of gold and 313 grams per ton of silver. Included in that was zero point 0.85 meter of 9.27 grams per ton of gold and 1,905 grams per ton of silver. And it confirms their northern extension of the Aqua La Reina vein at the Claudia project. They announced these are from the first 10 of 29 drill holes completed to date in their phase one 8,000-meter drill program at their 100% owned Claudia Silver project located in the historic El Papanton mining district in Durango State, Mexico. Really great mining state in Mexico. I live in Mexico, so I watch the Mexican mining scene very closely, and I love the potential of Pacifica. So here was that highlight hole that I talked about earlier. They also had another highlight hole that intersected 6.55 meters of 3.38 grams per ton of gold and 74 grams per ton of silver from 116.95 to 123 meters. Included in that was 3.45 meters of 5.10 grams per ton of gold and 75 grams per ton of silver. Now, I don't think that when I look at the valuations of the juniors and are the explorers, what I don't think that people have really come to grasp with is the rock value, the value of the metals inside of that, what they're finding. For example, you would have no problem whatsoever mining 6 meters, 6.35 meters. And in fact, a couple meters, no problem. So anything over 2 meters in these vein systems is really great. But if you look at 3 grams per ton of gold, that's $450 per ton of rock. And you might only spend $100 or so getting that rock out of the ground from an underground operation in Mexico. They also got 313 grams, so almost 10 ounces of silver. And silver's trading at $65 an ounce. That collectively is almost $1,000 a ton rock, folks. I don't think that these kind of numbers, and I've got other examples of companies, I don't think that people have really started to run those numbers. I'm always running those numbers because that's one of the metrics I've always looked at is what is the value of the rock in the ground? And is it over mining widths? And that Pacifica's hitting those check boxes, if you will. There's a quote from Todd Anthony. He stated, and I quote, he's the CEO of Pacifica, by the way, and I quote, "We're thrilled to hit outstanding silver grades at the outset of our maiden drill program at the Claudia project. Early results have also confirmed that high-grade mineralization at the Agua La Reina vein extends over 300 meters north of historical underground workings, or more than 700 meters north of the Agua La Reina shaft and headframe. There is also clear evidence of improving silver and gold grades with increasing depth, which we are keen to follow up in our phase two drill program. Additionally, phase one drilling has demonstrated that the Guadalupana vein increases in width down dip below historical drilling, and these intercepts include significant multi-stage hydrothermal breccia and vein fill that are highly indicative of mineralization. While assay results are pending on these holes, it is highly encouraging to see greater widths at the district scale vein, which signals the potential for a new high-grade discovery along Guadalupana. With these compelling early success and numerous high priority targets yet to be tested, we're just getting started and are truly excited for what lies ahead. End quote. So he highlights some really important things there. And along with his opening here of the hitting high grade, the extension of that vein by 300 meters, excellent. 700 meters north of the head frame and shaft. Also evidence of improving silver grades with increasing depth. That's really interesting because that's what you want to see in these epithermal vein systems is that, high in the system, you're in the quartz breccia unit, and you get below that and you're into the boiling zone. And sometimes in the boiling zone, you can have double boiling zones. And so it's very encouraging to see these kind of results coming out. Uh, Talks about the vein increases in width down dip. So sometimes these veins can pinch and swell along strike and at depth. And so that's really good to see. Um, they have multi-stage hydrothermal breccia. So the gold and silver in these systems is in the quartz, and breccia is a mixture of quartz and country rock. And so if you're getting high grades in the quartz breccia, you're in business in a big way, and you just need to get deeper into that system to get into the boiling zone of the system. They talk about pending, he talked about pending results, encouraging to see greater widths at this district scale. So, all the hallmarks of what you want to see, folks. They drilled about 3,600 meters in their first 15 holes at the Agua La Reina vein, 2,285 and 8 holes at the Guadalupana vein, and 1,457 meters in 6 holes testing the Justina West, Central, and Pinolera veins. Uh, and this map here is a fantastic map for you to understand epithermal vein clusters. This is a cluster of epithermal veins here, and many of them have not seen drilling. And another thing that happens a lot of times in these epithermal veins is you'll get blind veins that don't come to the surface. Like all of these veins they're talking about, they have surface expressions or they're very close to the surface, so they're projecting them up to the surface. But sometimes the epithermal vein won't make it all the way to the surface, let's say 50 to 100 meters down, and you can run into blind veins. And sometimes those blind veins can be your most important veins. For example, at Mag Silver, their Juanicipio and Valdecanis veins, which are epithermal just like this, didn't come to the surface. And so they were what you call blind veins. And so, in addition to all of these known veins that need to be drilled more, they also have the potential to find blind veins in there as well. And so here's a crosscut, a cross section. And as you can see, here's the vein, here's the breccia unit. And even in the breccia, they're getting grade inside of there. But the guts of it is this main vein. But even there's brecciation outside of that vein. Really interesting what's going on here. And so that's why I think Pacifica Silver, and even this image here, you can see that this is breccia. Okay. And you've got a mixture of quartz and country rock in there, and you're almost getting down to where it's pure quartz. And even above the best part of the vein, you're still getting some very nice looking stuff. And you can also see evidence of boiling textures here, a multi-phase boiling textures here, over here, some sulfides in there. It's here you're starting to get into more of the quartz. And still up in here, you're seeing still some of the breccia. So you're getting into a sort of a mixture. I'm really excited to see them get underneath that. And I think that's why they've had some very impressive investors into their company, including others, including Vizsla Silver, First Majestic, Eric Sprott's in this one. So Pacifica Silver has a lot of really good things going for it. So let's have a look at their stock chart. Uh, I got to put the right symbol in there, and we should get it up there somewhere. There it is. There's Pacifica Silver. So really, they came to life back here. I think I picked them right about here somewhere when they were just starting their drilling, and then had good performance when they announced some of the bigger companies that and people like Eric Sprott that were investing in them. They kind of went through a golden cross here, and the trajectory of the 50-day and the 200-day are very bullish. They haven't been trading for very long, a little over a year, but they really came to life when they started drilling in Mexico. And I really like how this one's performing, and I think it's got some great performance ahead of it. And I'm glad to have companies like Pacifica Silver to talk about. All right, 9 Mile Metals. 9 Mile Metals is a really underappreciated story. It's in the Bathurst mining camp, which is one of the great VMS districts in the world. They've been plugging away for a few years there. They had some success. Then they had some to wait for some new success. And recently they had that new success by drilling some geophysical anomalies at their Wedge VMS project. Now, the Wedge mine was a past producing mine back in the 1950s and 60s. Cominco had it in production back then. And then they found some geophysical anomalies not very far from the mine, which is a great place to look for a new mine. They did some surface sampling there and they got some, look at some of these grades: 7.52% copper, 13.65, 1.6, 1.5, a half a percent, 9.25. Now, these are surface sampling, but I wanted to show you, where is it here? Okay, so this is what you get at the top of a VMS system. Here is your sulfide. So VMS is volcanogenic massive sulfides. All right. And yes, we're seeing some beautiful sulfides that are kicking out remarkable grades: 9.82% copper equivalent, 15.21%. But what I want to point out is these sulfides, okay? Because later in the news release, they show you, I think it's on another news release. Let me let me go show you something because this is really important stuff. So 9 Mile announces completion. Ah, here. I think this one has some nice images of the so here you're seeing drill core. Now, this isn't surface sampling, and it's loaded up with sulfides. And it even has your highest grade copper sulfides, which are covellite and bornite. But look at that run of just solid, massive sulfides. Here you're seeing they've seen 20 meters of those massive sulfides. And here's your the plate. So they drilled from here, that's their drill collar. They drilled through these two plates and hit 22.5 meters of solid massive sulfides and another with 20 meters of massive sulfides. So if you take that into consideration, with what they're seeing in their surface sampling just above where they drilled in not even as good looking massive sulfides, I think they got some barn burner numbers coming up. And I believe that when they announce those, they're going to announce very high grade copper with other metals in there as well. And that's the kind of thing that could see this company get $100 million valuation or higher very rapidly. They currently are only trading at about a $20 million valuation. So I think that this could be a quite a spectacular performer in a very short period of time. I'm a significant shareholder, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm averaged in at a really good price that's up about 300% from when I first bought it. I'm looking at buying more to bring my average price up because you just don't see these kind of projects very often, folks. And especially in a camp like the Bathurst mining camp in New Brunswick, it's one of the great VMS camps in the entire world. One of the greatest VMS mines was in that area called the Bathurst number 12 mine. And it was one of the largest ever VMS mines. And so I'm really excited about, I think you can tell I'm pretty excited about what they got going here. And let's take a look at their stock. There it is. And when they started showing visuals of the first couple holes into those new geophysical anomalies, the stock really blasted off. It went through a golden cross here. And this trajectory of the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average is very impressive. And I think that they've got the catalyst to see their stock continue to perform very well and make new higher highs on the 50-day moving and the 200-day moving average. And so this little undiscovered gem, if you will, it's getting more discovery, but I think that based on, like I've been in this business a long time, folks, and you just don't see 20 meters of solid massive sulfides throughout, and that's true width, by the way, in a world class, one of the greatest VMS camps in the world. So I like their chances to deliver and wake a lot of people up about what they've got. All right, let's now move on to McEwen Inc. They announced that McEwen secures key permit for El Gallo mine, mill construction to begin in mid 2026, first gold pour mid 2027. Now, they've had some struggles on their gold mining operations over the last few years, but now they're bringing new mines into production. And I think that that will help them increase their production and bring down their average cost. Today, they are a high cost producer, but even being a high cost producer, you're still making a lot of money these days with gold over $4,000 an ounce. The real driver has of the valuation that's done very well is their copper project called um, of course, it's failing me at the moment. My old memory isn't as good. Los Azules in Argentina has had a lot of great success, but they were waiting on this permit on this Mexican project called El Gallo for the last few years, and they got it granted to them by the Mexican government. And so now they're going to move this one towards production. They talk about, they always highlight what's going on at their Los Azules mine because it is one of the most important undeveloped copper mines in the pipeline that's moving towards production in the next couple, 2, 3 years. And so it's a phenomenal project. They did a feasibility study that has it at $2.11 of cost, all in cost to bring that copper out of the ground. And when you got it trading at over $5 a pound, that's about $3 worth of free cash flow. And it's going to be a very robust producer that will produce about over $1 billion of free cash flow. And McEwen owns about 46% of it, plus a royalty. So they, that's about $500 million in free cash flow to their bottom line. Plus, they've got their gold operations and silver as well. And so they've got a very strong story. Now let's take a look at their stock chart. We'll use the Toronto because I'm a Canadian and I like to talk in Canadian dollars. As you can see, they went through a golden cross here. Since then, the trajectory has been very a good trajectory on the 50-day and the 200-day. They're both going up in a nice channel. As you can see, over the last since about November, they've been trading right on that 50-day moving average. I think that they are shaping up for a significant breakout. They've got the makings of the left side of a cup, the bottom, and now I think they can go up the right side of the cup and take them to some new new highs above $35 an ounce. And yeah, McEwen has a lot of good things on the go. So take a look at McEwen. Southern Cross Gold had a very good news release out. They reported 3.6 meters at 14.6 grams per ton of gold at in the deepest hole at their Apollo discovery in the Victoria region of Australia. Why that's important, folks, is one of the greatest orogenic high-grade gold mines in the world is the Fosterville mine in Victoria, about 30 kilometers from the this great discovery that Southern Cross Gold has found. And here they give you some indications of the grade 14.7 gold equivalent over 3.6 meters. So well into what you can mine with no problem. Other high grade hits in there as well. Michael Hudson, who's the president and CEO of the company, stated, and I quote, SDDSC 192 is our deepest east-west hole into Apollo and delivered 3.6 meters at 14.7 grams per ton gold equivalent, including a high-grade hit of 0.21 meters at 236 grams per ton of gold, proving the system remains robust and open at depth. Stepping down 80 meters at Apollo Deeps, we intersected 11 vein sets across Apollo East and Apollo Deeps, demonstrating exceptional continuity of this large-scale, high-grade gold antimony system. We've also uncovered a new mineralized zone between the Gladys and Golden Orb faults that returned zero point 0.3 meters at 46 grams per ton gold equivalent, opening up 70 meters of untested ground to the south. Individual samples returned exceptional antimony grades of 25% and 17% alongside high-grade gold values, reinforcing Sunday Creek's significance as a critical antimony project. Apollo continues to grow in every direction we drill, and with mineralization open at depth and along strike, we're only starting to see the system's potential to the east, end quote. For me, Southern Cross Gold is like a Fosterville 2.0. And that was a company builder for Kirkland Lake Discoveries, Kirkland Lake Mining that got them bought out and was a huge winner for the shareholders, including Eric Sprott. And I think, I mean, just look at all the gold in this system. It's everywhere. And these point fours, 4 meters, 6.5 meters, this is all mineable stuff. 1.5 meters at 8 grams and very high value rock. If you look at the gold and the antimony in the system, I'm just scrolling down to see if I can find any cross sections. So here's the plan view. So you can see that they've got just a multitude of stacked veins running right beside each other and parallel to each other. So this is great stuff. lots of drilling left for this company. Here's another drill hole progress. So they give you an idea how the drilling's going. Here's some cross sections. Look at how some of this beautiful high grade is hanging together in a tremendous way. And that is in itself is why they've had such success with their stock valuation. So let's pull up SXGC. I made them a pick back here. They were coming down off of this high here, and I saw this cup forming, and I picked them right around here at $5 a share. They broke out above their 50-day moving average. The trajectory of the 50-day and the 200-day are on very bullish trends, long-term trends, and they closed Friday at $9.42. That was up 6.56%. And I think that this is the Fosterville 2.0 story, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing. Now, right beside them, and they also had news out, is Golden Cross. So this news came out on December the 15th, and they announced that Golden Cross confirms system scale gold mineralization and commences first ever drilling at high priority Aurora target. They did 4,000 meters, 15 diamond drill holes. They got consistent gold mineralization with well-developed arsenic halos. So they're literally right beside the Southern Cross discovery, and they're finding the same kind of stuff in the core, gold and antimony. Now, what's different is these guys are still very high in the system and have only started drilling. And so they got a little more work to do. And then I think they got the potential to be a substantial breakout candidate. They talk about structure and geochemical signatures, display clear parallels with major Victorian gold systems, including Fosterville and Costerfield. They could add their next door neighbor, Southern Cross, in that list as well. Maiden modern drilling has commenced at the Aurora prospect, a historically significant, never before drill tested target located on the fold hinge of the Reedy Creek anticline. Anticlines and synclines are kind of like they go up and down, and when you get the hinge, that's a very good place to be looking for gold, and that's why they highlight it there. Golden Cross is the first exploration company to secure land access to Aurora, a high priority target since the acquisition of the Reedy Creek, given its structural position and extensive history of artisanal mining. This area, like what helped Southern Cross make their discovery, was artisanal mining along many decades ago, and this actually more of that artisanal mining was done on Golden Cross's ground than on Southern Cross. They still have assays pending from Welcome Reef and Empress Reef, expected to refine targeting further and provide upcoming news flow. They give you some details here. Here's Matt Maroma's comment, and I quote, every hole drilled to date has intersected gold with well-developed arsenic halos, confirming that we are operating in the upper levels of a larger orogenic gold system. The grades we're seeing near surface, coupled with our structural data, are now pointing us toward where the system gets stronger at depth. And the never before drill tested Aurora prospect is emerging as the most compelling location to test for thicker, higher grade veins. Rock chips returning up to 5.22 grams per ton of gold highlight the strength of the system at the surface and reinforce Aurora as a compelling drill target with room to grow at depth. We view this systematic technical progress as a positive step in the right direction toward making a discovery. End quote. Now, folks, people don't get excited about technical successes, but I do because you need those technical successes near the surface to help you focus your drilling deeper. These orogenic gold systems are known to have very deep roots, but a real good way to blow a lot of money and have maybe iffy results is to start by drilling deep. You need that near surface stuff to help focus and vector in deeper into the system. And so I'm really happy to see what I've seen here, but when we look at the chart, you'll see what I mean. So here is one of these anticlines, and here is the hinge of it, and this would be the apex of it. That's exactly where you want to be looking for high grade gold. Uh, Here's some underground workings from the old timers 100 years ago that dug these crude portals into the mine, but you can see some good mineralization all around here. So that's what these old timers were chasing. You can see all of the massive amount of historical mining that was done by the artisanal miners. All these are locations where that was done. Here, this shows you the idea of what they're doing. So this is super shallow in a orogenic gold system. And you're really using these holes to vector into where you drill deeper to follow these veins deeper into the system. The fact that they got a bunch of them and they're getting gold mineralization at the top of an orogenic gold system, it's really good stuff, but markets don't pay attention to that stuff. They'll pay attention to the, 10 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams, but you got to do this drilling before you can get to deeper. Otherwise, you'd blow a lot of money really rapidly. And so, as you can see, I mean, they're only drilling 100, 150-meter holes here to sort of get a feeling for where the gold is at the top of the orogenic gold system. So, and here is another great map that shows you the same concept here. So next, they want to know where these faults are. They want to know the zones, the veins, where they're going, and they'll keep following those deeper and deeper into the system. And even this drill core, it shows you that they're on the top of an orogenic gold system. You're just seeing little veinlets. And if you're getting mineralization in those little veinlets, you don't get to just send the veinlet into for assaying. You got to send everything in, and that dilutes the grade, folks. You're really looking for where you find more of this quartz, okay? And you're starting to see it get a little bit bigger and some stibnite. So that's your antimony in the deeper hole at 320 meters. So I really like what I'm seeing at Golden Cross, but let's take a look at the stock has not been well received. There it is, Golden Cross. So as you can see, as the enthusiasm towards their drilling next door to Southern Cross got underway, they peaked out here at close to $1. Since then, they've been sliding. They had a dip when they put those results out because, again, these are technical successes, folks, but I will caution people to remember that technical successes are what lead you to vectoring in deeper into these orogenic gold systems. And I'm actually putting a circle around the company's name because I want to buy this on this weakness. I think they've got a very good project that's getting underloved right now. It's just recently gone through a death cross. But I think that this is the kind of death cross that could be fairly shallow. We'll see. But keep a close eye on it because I think it's offering a very good opportunity for this company at these prices. All right. Amex. Am I getting my order right here? Yeah, I think I got it all right. Amex Exploration completes acquisition of Abbotsford and Hepburn projects. This is in Ontario, and I'm actually going to go back one news release because you can see what this actually means. And then there is some other news that they didn't put out, but here it is, December 1st. So this Perron project is where all their great work has been done so far in yellow. Okay. And in yellow, they've got the Champagne zone, 850,000 ounces, around 850,000 ounces, with an average grade of 16.2 grams per ton of gold, and inferred in that same Champagne zone about another 100 and some thousand ounces with a grade of 10 grams per ton. As they do more drilling, I think that they got the potential to increase that. And then they've got other resources. So the total so far is about 2.5 million ounces that are wide open to increase. But the really exciting thing is what they're doing to bring the staged progress of the Champagne zone, and it's really helped out their valuation. This company is a sponsor of my reports. I'm really proud to have them as a sponsor. They help me to be able to do my work, and I think they've got a world-class discovery at their Perron project. But then they added these red claims, these blue claims, the purple. I'm kind of color challenged sometimes. And over here is Agnico Eagle, and so they've and this is in Ontario, so they've dramatically increased their land position in the right package of rocks, all the way up to where there's an important mine of Agnico Eagle, Casa Berardi up in here. And so they've got a great project. And what also happened this week is that Eric Sprott sold his position in Amex to El Dorado. So some people, I heard them saying, oh, well, why did Eric Sprott sell? Well, Eric Sprott plays in a lot of deals, okay? Sometimes he needs cash. He's a billionaire, but sometimes billionaires need an extra 60 million to buy other things. He made a very good money. He sold it at $4, which is the price that El Dorado bought it at. And I always look at the flip side of coins. If you're going to ask, well, why did Eric Sprott sell his? You have to also ask, well, why did El Dorado, a much larger gold mining company, buy that position? Ultimately, I think it's a great transaction for Eric Sprott and for El Dorado, and ultimately for Amex as well. So Amex, this is where it was done at $4. So it closed Friday at 4.04, up 4.94% or 19 cents a share. Had a golden cross here. Trajectory of the 50-day and the 200-day is very bullish. What they've been talking about as it's moved up here is their steps that they're taking in order to bring the Champagne zone into production in a staged way. The first stage is to do a bulk sampling of 20 to 40,000 tons, and that will be taken from this material that's grading at about 16.2 grams per ton of gold. So even in a toll milling situation for a bulk sample, it looks like this could be a very lucrative situation. They're also doing a preliminary economic assessment to do a toll milling operation on the Champagne zone. And the idea there is that you toll mill it for a few years and use the free cash flow from that toll milling to build your own mill at the Perron project. And then you can bring in the satellite zones around Champagne and produce it all on your own property. Now, a lot of companies would like to take this method, but they can't because of where they're located. If they're located way far away from mills, well, you're limited about what you can do. In this case, they're in the Abitibi region and they have a lot of underutilized mills in their area that they could use for a toll milling operation. So I'm really excited to see that preliminary economic assessment, plus all the drilling that they're doing. They're doing about 50,000 meters of drilling. That's quite important as well. So they got a lot of catalysts and news flow coming ahead of them. So take a look at Amex. Vizsla Silver is also a sponsor of my report, and I'm very thankful of that because I think they've got the next great new silver mine at Panuco. And they just announced this week that Vizsla to acquire strategic claims surrounding Panuco from Fresnillo PLC. Now, Fresnillo is the largest silver miner in the world, and they're also one of the lowest cost producers. They trade in the London Stock Exchange, and they kind of got their hands full now because they're taking over a company in Canada, and so they've got a lot on their plate, and the Panuco project is better off in the hands of, or sorry, their ground is in the better hands with Vizsla Silver. So they did a deal to acquire, and that is agreed to pay $2 million and issue $4 million in common shares to Fresnillo as consideration for the claims. So they get to give up, they get $2 million and $4 million worth of stock in Vizsla, and that gives them a position by selling a project that would that's given they were it was getting no love in Fresnillo. So Michael Connard, who's the president and CEO of Vizsla, stated, and I quote, "With this acquisition, we now have more prospective ground adjacent to our flagship Panuco project to continue exploring. The strategic claims host past production along a trend of known mineralized structures, several of which are included in the recently announced Panuco feasibility study. The acquisition of the claims provides our team with new high priority targets, which, pending exploration success, not only have the potential to grow the overall resource base, but also bolster mine economics in future mine updates and technical studies." And so they bolted on some strategic claims. And what why Vizsla has been such a strong performer, um, where is their Toronto listing? I'm going to pull up the TO listing. Just give me a second here. So, as you can see, a couple of years ago, around when they started being a sponsor of my work, I was really happy because they've come up quite significantly since then. They had a Golden Cross in early 2024, and since then have been the trajectory of the 50-day moving average is very bullish, as is the 200-day. They closed Friday at $7.39, so they're just a breath away from their all-time high, and they were up 4.82% or 34 cents. So what really is exciting about their Panuco project is you look at their numbers that they've done in their feasibility work, and the capex to build the Panuco mine is about 225 million. If you use current prices of gold and silver, I know you're not supposed to, but they do some sensitivity analysis, and even with a lower price, their IRR, internal rate of return, still gets up over 100%, and that would bring their payback of their capex down to around 3 months. So if you extrapolate that out to a year, if you're paying off 225 million of your cost to build it in the first 3 months of operation, well, you're going to have very good performance, nearly $1 billion in free cash flow in the first year. Now, that's a forward-looking statement on my behalf, but I'm just running numbers. And we don't know what the price of silver and gold will be when they get it into production. They're still waiting on their permits, so there's still some boxes to check off. But you can see that a lot of really serious people have done their homework, and that's why the stock has done so well. So that's the Vizsla story. Now, another one that had some news out that I don't think was well understood is Sierra Madre announces agreement to acquire the Del Toro silver mine from First Majestic Silver and do a concurrent 50 million offering of subscription receipts to pay, obviously, to pay for that acquisition. So, addition of second production ready asset to the Sierra Madre portfolio. Del Toro mine restart to follow La Guitarra expansions. They talk about pleased to announce a definitive agreement on December 17th for the Del Toro silver mine in Chalchihuites. I've actually been there. Really beautiful little community district in Mexico. And by the way, I know I have a friend that works for a major in that area, and that area really loves that Canadian major because they help them learn how to grow their own food and provide a lot of jobs. So Chalchihuites district in Mexico is very pro mining, and they got this from First Majestic Silver for total consideration of up to 60 million, inclusive of delayed and contingent milestone payments. In connection with the transaction, Sierra Madre also has entered into an engagement letter with Beacon Securities with respect to a best efforts private placement offering up to 50 million of subscription receipts. They talk about the transaction will give Sierra Madre 100% of Del Toro in Zacatecas State. That includes fully permitted underground mines, a 3,000 ton per day flotation processing circuit, and numerous historic mines. Alex Langer, who's Sierra Madre's president and CEO, stated, and I quote, "We are incredibly excited to be announcing our second mine acquisition in Mexico, which provides us with the opportunity to replicate the successful restart the Sierra Madre team has achieved at La Guitarra and advance the companies towards mid-tier silver production levels. Near term, our plan for Del Toro is to advance exploration and prepare an updated resource report while our operating team focuses on completing the two-stage expansion at La Guitarra. Our initial plan is to commence the mine restart process at Del Toro in mid-2027, with production currently stated for mid-2028. If silver prices continue on their current upward trajectory, there is a possibility of restarting Del Toro within a 12-month time period." He goes on, he continues, "The Sierra Madre team is also incredibly grateful to participate in yet another transaction with First Majestic, which has been a strategic shareholder since 2023. We look forward to working to unlock the full potential of this past producing operation." End quote. Their executive chairman and chief operating officer, Greg Liller, he stated, and I quote, Del Toro is an excellent match for our portfolio, not just on a production basis, but with considerable exploration upside. Part of our long-standing corporate business model is to acquire mines such as La Guitarra with existing production facilities and then to build a resource base in underexplored large historic mining districts. Del Toro fits in with the business model with an already built production plant and a strategic land position in the large underexplored Chahuites district. Finally, as was the case with La Guitarra, First Majestic has done an exceptional job in keeping permits current and maintaining the mine and plant in an operations ready state. Our initial exploration plans for Del Toro would include a drill program of approximately 50,000 meters, which would lead to an updated mineral resource estimate in early 2028 ahead of the possible mine restart. High priority targets include mantle and chimney type carbonate replacement deposits or CRDs and skarn mineralization like the nearby La Colorada mine operated by Pan American Silver, along with the vein type deposits exploited by First Majestic. So, end quote. So, this is a project that wasn't getting enough love under First Majestic, and it could very well be a company maker for a company like a Sierra Madre. I love seeing these kind of deals, but the market wasn't as enthusiastic as I am. Let's take a look at their stock chart here. There it is. And as you can see, it sold off on great news. It was down 16.77%, which is quite surprising to me because I think this is a great acquisition. Now, they were on a very nice trend. I think I started picking them when they were about 80 cents, and they were performing very well, trading nicely above their 50-day moving average. They traded below it and then broke through it again, and then came off, although. It had quite a significant rally off the low. The low of the day was around a dollar 20.25, and they closed at a dollar 39. Sometimes it shocks me, but I've seen it a million times that the market it looks for the action after a news release to assess whether it's good news or not. I look at things differently. I look at what does this mean for the company going forward, and I think it means a lot. And but the market didn't agree with me on that day. But nonetheless, the production that they have and growing, and now they got another key asset, I think puts the company in a very good position. All right. So now I'm going to quickly go through because we've been at this for over an hour. Um, let's have well, my unicorn picks. I talked about Vizsla Silver already. I talked about McEwen Inc. Another of my unicorn picks, and unicorn picks are companies that I think could have such significant success that is really quite transformational for the company that holds that asset. Vizsla has one in silver at their Panuco mine. McEwen Inc. has one in copper with their Los Azules mine in Argentina that they're developing. Goliath Resources, let me pull them up, has one of the best new discoveries that I've seen in the Golden Triangle since the Pretium's Brucejack mine. Now, I started picking Pretium before they brought that mine into production, and it ultimately went from under $3 to over $19, where it was bought out over a couple year period. And that was the last great high grade gold mine in the Golden Triangle. And I think Goliath has the next. And as you can see, they've kind of been softening up lately. And I think one of the things that got them overly negative was the announcement that they're contemplating a rollback. And they gave a few reasons as to why they're planning on are thinking about doing a rollback on their stock. And that is that one of the key ones is that they're looking at getting a US listing. Now, before they can do that rollback, because you need a certain stock price in order to get a listing on the New York Stock Exchange. And so they need to do this rollback. And I've seen companies do this kind of stuff in the last 4 or 5 years, and it's very good because it opens up investors in the United States. Now, another reason that they gave is why it would be beneficial is if they tighten up that share structure, they already only have about 180 million shares out. But if they tighten it up and the stock is then valued at like 5 times, let's say they did a 5 for 1. If it's valued at $10, that brings a whole bunch of institutions that could then buy it because they can't buy it at this price. They need a higher stock price because $2.42 is still considered a penny stock. A five and up is what is not considered a penny stock anymore. You figure that out. I'm not going to bother, but that is some of the restrictions that institutions have for looking at smaller companies than, your big, US listed companies. And so initially it sold off on the news, but then it started to come back when it got down to the 200 day. I would point out that the last time they got down to the 200 day was back here in April, and they went from $1.38 to to $3.50. And the time before that they got down to the 200 day was here at about $1, and they ran up to $2.70, almost $3 a share. And so I think that this company is oversold here. Uh, what what they have at their Sherbet Discovery is very rare. You just do not find projects like this very often anymore, especially in places like the Golden Triangle. It's just loaded up with visible gold and in hundreds of holes, spread out over a large area. I think they've got a world-class discovery on their hands, and they're trading around their 200 day. Looks to be oversold to me. I'll leave that up to you to do your homework on. Another of my unicorn picks is Amex. I already talked about them, so I don't need to talk about them again. Top of mind picks. Uh, One of them is Pirate Gold. Now, I just did a video on Pirate Gold a couple days ago, and I'd invite you to check that out because they had news out. I talked about the news, and by the way, I'm a shareholder of the company. And then they also did episode 2 of their Pirate Gold treasure hunt. And this is where they give you insights into what work they're doing. And so what I did is I did a play-by-play of that video. And I encourage you to go find it on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com, or you can also go on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, at Rocks and Stocks News. And but they are part of the Newfoundland uh, play or area, if you will. And I think that Newfoundland has the potential of being the Abitibi 2.0 success. Abitibi is one of the great gold mining camps in the world, and all the same geological characteristics that are at Abitibi are also in Newfoundland. Now, Newfoundland is just getting off the starting blocks, if you will, towards an Abitibi 2.0, but I'm going all in on the Abitibi 2.0 story. I've got coverage and picks, including Equinox, that is bringing their Valentine Lake mine into production. That's southeast of, or southwest of the of Pirate Gold's ground on the same geological structure called the Valentine Lake Shear Zone. These are deep crustal cracks that the gold-bearing fluids follow on their way up. Pirate Gold has been doing a bunch of drilling. They're in the midst of a 50,000 meter drill program, and I think they've got the potential to be the next major player in the Newfoundland area. And another is Newfound Gold, and they're to the east of Pirate Gold and Valentine Lake, but they're also looking for an orogenic, well, they're not looking for it, they have found a substantial orogenic gold resource of high grade that they're bringing into production now. And folks, they're going to be producing 9 grams per ton in an open pit. Most open pits these days are like a half a gram. So this is an exciting project, and then they'll use that profit to then follow these orogenic gold systems deeper. But the high grade starts right at the surface, and then they got to keep drilling deeper, but those pits will give them easier access to that. So really exciting things happening in Newfoundland. Pirate Gold is the next player. Denny Laviolette took over as the CEO, and I call this before Denny and after Denny. Before Denny, they were a sleepy, unloved, misunderstood junior trading at, let's say, about 4 cents a share. Denny jumped on board to be the CEO, and it blasted off. They were able to put about $25 million into the treasury so they can do a 50,000 meter program. It had a beautiful golden cross with a extremely bullish trajectory to the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages. So yeah, take a look at Pirate Gold. All righty. I'm running at over an hour and a half, and I want to talk about my other top of mind picks like Sterling Metals, Kirkland Lake Discoveries, Borealis Mining, Foran Mining. I already talked about them because they had news out. Newfound Gold, I also talked about them. 9 Mile Metals, I talked about them. These are all current top of mind picks. But then I've now added three more to my top of mind picks, which include Northmont Mining, BlackRock Silver, and West Red Lake Gold Mines. Now, part of the reason why I added these is Northmont Mining is drilling right now on their project in Chile that I'm very bullish on. BlackRock Silver is developing a the highest grade undeveloped silver project in the world in Nevada. And that's why they are now moved up to my top of mind picks. And West Red Lake Gold Mines, I just did an interview with uh, uh, their IR person, Gwen Preston, and I think they're about to turn that mine into full commercial production in the first quarter of 2026. I don't think they're getting the appropriate amount of love right now, so you want to take a look at that. My special situation pick, I only have one of those, and that's Earth Labs Inc. Why don't I pull back the gold here? Let's see oh, it's up $10 today in early overnight trading in the futures market. Earth Labs is a very interesting company. They've got a combination of owning some very impressive mining related websites like CEO.ca and the Northern Miner. And so that's a or a cash flow situation. And then they also own a very good basket of junior mining stocks. They position themselves very well into a lot of really good names, and they're starting to see those mature. And in quarter over quarter, 2024, their third quarter, they had about $1 million in profit on their portfolio, and that jumped up to 23 million in the first or third quarter of 2025. So they position themselves well in a lot of good names, and they're starting to see progress on that. My gold and silver explorers with important high grade discoveries are Dolly Varden Silver and Southern Cross. I already talked about Southern Cross, Dolly Varden. I talked about them earlier in the week because they are merging a merger of equals with Contango, and that's a really interesting deal that will help have a combination of production and then projects that can go into production. So they'll have a really impressive pipeline. My majors, I want to talk a little bit about my majors as a group. My major precious metal miners, Agnico Eagle, Newmont, Pan American Silver, and Core Mining. And why I want to talk about these are what I started the show off talking about the performance of gold and silver, and that they've both gone through the best quarters ever by a long way. And a lot, like, look at AME. While gold is having its best quarter ever, and they are have been a free cash flow machine that's about to have their best quarter ever. Look at the stock. It's been going sideways of late. This is just coiled up and ready to blast off. Newmont, let's see what Newmont's doing because they're going to benefit from that beautiful quarter, and they're doing better than Agnico Eagle, but I wouldn't sneeze at Agnico Eagle. They're a free cash flow machine. Newmont's doing very well since I picked them just before they went through their golden cross. They were trading at about $43 a share. They're now trading at over 100. So in a very short period of time, they've done very well. Pan American Silver, they got the benefit of having both gold and silver and making a lot of money mining both of those. They're performing very well. I picked them, I want to say back around here. So they've doubled in a very short period of time, but that's not why I picked them. I picked them because as I think silver is going to make a series of record highs throughout 20, well, they've already done it in 2025. I predicted it, by the way. I am also predicting that 2026 will see the continuation of that series of new record highs. And when people, generalists, think about silver producers, Pan American Silver is a top of mind major. And so I think that they're performing very nicely against the silver price. So that's the Pan American. Now, Core is on the acquisition front over the last couple of years. And when they dipped down after they announced that they're taking over New Gold, I made them a pick. Now, this had a lot to do with their takeover of another of my picks called Silvercrest. And Silvercrest was a very good transaction that helped them go through a golden cross, get all the way up to 24 bucks from about $4. And then they came off when they announced the New Gold acquisition. But New Gold's a low cost producer, and I think that this was an overreaction, and that's why I picked them there. And since then, they've moved up quite nicely. But I think the combination of their Rochester mine, their Las Chispas mine that they got from Silvercrest. What they're getting from New Gold is giving Core a runway to perform very well in the not too distant future. So that is the Core story. Alamos Gold, I love this company as a mid-tier. They're about to double their production and dramatically bring down their costs. They'll be one of the lower cost, mid-tier producers. I picked them in early 2024 when they were trading at about $15. They're currently trading at 53, just quarter after quarter, making tremendous free cash flow. They've been pumping that free cash flow back into increasing their production by almost double. But what's important is they're already producing gold for under the average cost of the mid tiers and the majors. And the new mine is going to bring their costs down about $300 below the average of the mid tiers and the majors as far as all-in cost of producing gold. And so they are using free cash flow to increase their free cash flow. And I think Alamos has a fantastic future. Same can be said for Aris Mining. They're a low-cost producer of high grade in Colombia. Look at the performance of that. I picked them back in here somewhere when they were trading at about five-ish, $6. Or sorry, I'm wrong there. I picked them right about here when they were trading at about $9 because they dipped down to their 200-day moving average and then blasted off. Currently over a double to 21.96. I really like this company's future, and I think they got a lot of blue sky ahead of them. Same can be said for Equinox. Equinox just recently sold their Brazil mines, and they're going to focus in on their Greenstone mine in Ontario and their Valentine Lake mine in Newfoundland. So these are one of the players in the in Newfoundland Abitibi 2.0 story. They're bringing both the Greenstone and the Valentine Lake into full commercial production at the same time. This is their engine for growth into the future. And that deal they did to sell their um, uh, Brazil mines, it enables them to get rid of about $800 million in debt, just like that. So the onus to look after that won't be from their Valentine Lake and the Greenstone. That can go to the bottom line. And so I think it was a great deal. And that's the Equinox story. Orla is a pick that I made before they brought their first mine into production. I made them a pick a few years ago, and since then they've been a really great performer since early 2024, kind of bottom left of the chart to the top right, trading at 1955, showing good relative strength of late. Got a lot of good things happening on the mine that they bought from Newmont, and then they've got their Camino Rojo mine here in the state of Zacatecas, where I live. Plus, they got a development project in Nevada, and they're acquisitive. So I think that they could be an acquirer of assets. So I'm liking what I have in Orla Mining. Okay, this show has gotten a little longer than I anticipated. And what I'll do is for my junior gold miners, my developers, and my explorers, in the description of this video, I'll have all of my picks in their various different categories. So that will give you a menu for you to do your homework on. And as always, I stress that I am only an idea generator, folks. I don't make buying or selling recommendations. That's up to you and your financial advisor. You have to talk to your financial advisor about that, plus do your homework. What I try to do is help you with that homework and help bring you companies that have gone through my filter that I've built up over the last 32 years in the business, 20 years as a market commentator. And we've been doing pretty darn good. And I think we got a lot of blue sky ahead of us for for the portfolio of picks that I've made. But you got to do that homework. Makes you a better investor. Be well informed. That's always the best investors, whether you're looking in the gold mining, the silver mining, copper mining, or any industry for that matter. Be a well-informed investor. On that note, have a great day and Christmas. Merry Christmas. And I might have another show before Christmas, but if I don't, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that jazz. Talk to you soon.